To most people, Denver, Colorado conjures up images of a Rocky Mountain winter sports wonderland. To the champ cars, Denver has become synonymous with the pressure of running for a championship. What a weekend here in Denver, Colorado. We welcome you to round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver. We have a beautiful day a few blocks away at the Civic Center. The Taste of Colorado is in full swing. Here at the Pepsi Center, we're ready for the return of the champ cars to Denver, Colorado. And between them, the two events are expected to bring more than 500,000 people to downtown Denver. Welcome to the frontal range of the Rocky Mountains, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Tommy Kendall, live here on Speed Channel. Tommy, we've got a diabolical racing circuit. Teams are scratching their head. We got fast guys at the back of the pack. Can you recall a race with this much uncertainty going in?
I certainly can't. An impossibly slick track has the champ car drivers wondering which way is up. The altitude and thin air has them wondering if they can keep their engines, brakes, and themselves cool enough to finish. Simply put, these drivers have issues. Watching some of the finest drivers on earth struggle here reminds me of watching Tiger Woods struggle against the conditions at the British Open. The combination of factors has led to unprecedented uncertainty. Nobody has any idea what might happen next. The best analogy I can make is Thanksgiving dinner with a wildly volatile and dysfunctional family. Not a lot of fun to be a participant, but wildly entertaining to watch in a sick and twisted sort of way. I can't wait.
Let's not get our holidays confused. This is Labor Day, and we've got a great show coming up for you. As to how the drivers and teams are learning to deal with this racetrack, well, let's go to Derek Daly.
And Bob, it is a spectacular new venue for a kart, part of their ongoing initiative to bring racing to the people. But as with all first-time events, you have first-time problems. And here it is, the grip and the extremely bumpy circuit that has just wreaked havoc with the teams and drivers. Every single driver has been off the road at least once this year. Just look at what happened in the morning warm-up. Patrick Carpentier runs right down the escape road at turn 1. They turn him around, and our pole sitter replaces him down the escape road. This is very punishing on brakes. This is Dario Franchitti just this morning. Brakes on fire. He tortured them that much. But then what happened a couple of minutes later, Kenny Brack, having just had fastest lap of the session at that time, smacks the outside wall and rips a right front corner from his target Jip Ganassi car. This track is brutal. However, can some teams turn the unusual challenges to their advantage? I will tell you though, today patience is the virtue. Now, how will some of these cars handle the conditions? For that, let's go down to Scott Pruitt. Scott?
Thanks, Derek. Challenging for the teams as well, as you said. Take a look at this. This is Jimmy Jasser's shell car. All this used to be bodywork. It's all been opened up to let more air out of the radiator. They even put a gurney lip here on top, trying to extract more air through the car to help to cool down the water temp. Take a look back here. There used to be a piece of bodywork around the transmission. It's been taken off, trying to let more air in there. And the brake ducts. These are huge brake ducts, the biggest we've seen all season, trying to keep these things cool. It's going to be a challenge regardless. Calvin?
And Scott, the heat is going to be on the drivers this afternoon in more ways than one. Certainly brutally tough conditions here in the Mile High City, but the heat is on in terms of which driver ends up in which seat for next year. Just this morning, many of the top teams made firm commitments to the series, but no driver announcements were made. And remember, many of these team owners have short-term memory, so how the boys perform today and in the upcoming weeks will certainly have an effect on their decision, Bob.
All right, thanks very much, gentlemen. You get the idea. A very tough race ahead with an awful lot at stake. 2 weeks from now, we'll be in Corby, England on the oval track for the Rockingham 500. Friday qualifying coming your way at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Kart Friday night from a medieval castle, and the race itself on Saturday beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern. We'll be in England because, after all, London is calling.
come out of the cupboard, you boys and girls. I never felt so much alike. Chilling out, having fun, tripping on a good time, hanging with the girls out in the sunshine, strumming on a guitar, acting like a rock star. Mama always said, "Oh, baby, gonna go real far." Walk along with me, walk along with me, won't you walk with me, walk along with me, walk along with me.
Welcome back live to Denver, Colorado, where pre-race ceremonies continue at the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver. I'm Bob Varsha. Let's take a little walk along the pit lane. Calvin Fish is standing by with our pole sitter.
Well, Bruno Junqueira will start today's race from the pole position. Third time this season, Bruno, but this may be the most important one yet because of the tight first turn.
Yeah, that's going to be a tight first turn and tight race, but I hope that you can get to the finish and maybe get a win.
Many of the drivers this weekend have equated driving this race circuit to driving in the rain. There's such a fine line between being on the pace, running quick laps, and making a mistake running down the runoff areas or into the tire wall.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult tracks that I've raced in my life because half of the track is concrete, very bumpy, and reasonable amount of grip, and another half of the track is asphalt with no grip at all, the same as rain. Then it's quite difficult to find a balance on both sides of the track.
Okay, Bruno, good luck this afternoon. Bruno's looking for his second win this season, but a man who's not on the grid position we expected this afternoon stands by with Double D.
That's right, Calvin. Paul Tracy's a long way down the grid. Paul, you've hit quite a few things, but I saw a spring in your step and a smile on your face after the morning warm-up this morning. That tells me you feel good with the changes you made last night.
Yeah, I think as a whole, the team, we had a major screw-up this weekend in terms of setup. We changed the car this morning.
And you did hit a few things.
Yeah, we did hit a few things, but we realized finally it was a very small thing, but that was wrong on the car, but it transformed the whole car. So car was good this morning. I was 0.3 faster than I qualified on full tanks and old tires this morning. So I think I got a good car, and we'll just, it's a long race, so we just got to be there at the end.
Thank you, Paul. I think Paul Tracy is the sleeper today. One flying lap was what he got this morning in warm-up to do that time that was faster than he qualified. Fellas?
That's right. He was 6th quick in the warm-up. Keep your eye on PT. Now, speaking of hitting things, we want to take you back 5 weeks to the Grand Prix of Vancouver in Canada and that massive, frightening wreck involving Adrian Fernandez, who collided with the wall and then was speared by the oncoming Bruno Junqueira. If you've been following our coverage this year, you know all about the damage to Adrian's derriere, perhaps the most famous butt in racing this year. Just a couple of weeks later, he was there at Road America using a crutch to get in and out of the car. Lots of therapy every racing weekend. It gets better by the week. And we had no better proof of that than last week in Montreal, where the Mexican driver crashed heavily, but was able to climb out of his car unaided, and he is here again this weekend to race, standing by with Scott Pruitt.
Adrian Fernandez starting second on the front row, quickest in Friday qualifying. For you, how do you see this race? It seems like there's so many issues. How are you dealing with them all?
Well, the main thing for us is that the car has been very consistent. So basically what we have to do is just do what we've been doing all weekend. I think one of the drivers have done the least mistakes, and I just have to keep my margins through the race. You know, temperatures, brakes, all that is going to be an issue. But something that we are going to be as passengers is going to be in the heat related to the engine. And I think everybody here is going to have that issue. Hopefully, you know, I have a lot of, you know, I'm very determined, and I think that the Honda engine will be very good.
Now, you talk about the cooling conditions. We know it's huge for the brakes, but more so than the engine. What can you do as a driver to help alleviate some of that temperature?
That's exactly. We have a mixture that is a little richer, that you probably, you know, put a little bit more fuel than what you need just to try to cool the engine. And just basically stay away from maybe in the straights, away from staying behind the other guy, and just to try to get some cool air into the car. Apart from that, there is nothing you can do.
Well, best of luck. Now remember, both of the Fernandez cars have been run very, very good this weekend, starting second and third. Bob?
That's right, Scott. And that 2-3 qualifying performance by Adrian Fernandez and Shinji Nakano as Ari Leyendyk congratulates Adrian on his job. That's the best ever team performance for Fernandez Racing. Good to see the Flying Dutchman here this weekend in Denver. Now, along with all the tension and all the head scratching this weekend, there has been a little bit in the way of fun and games. This morning, for example, Bruno Junqueira was wanting to make the pause that refreshes, but found out his buddy Cristiano D'Amato was using the facility. Ever the helpful countryman, D'Amata decide to let Junqueira take over the box. And then he had an idea, TK.
Poor Bruno wanted to go in for his little morning ritual, you know, drop the kids at the pool. And here comes Cristiano shattering his piece.
Remember, those guys have been tricking on each other since they were small boys in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Let's get to Calvin Fish.
Cristiano D'Amata gets prepared for the race this afternoon. Cristiano, quick word with you. We saw you having some fun with Bruno this morning when he was going to the restroom there, trying to shake him up a little bit. He starts from the pole. You're back in 7th position. We haven't seen you start this far back on a street road course this year. You want to be conservative, score points. How do you do that when this racetrack is so difficult?
Well, the main thing for this race is going to be to finish. There's many issues that make just to finish this race a big achievement. So we wait till the race start and we dance according to the music.
Going into turn 1, I spoke to Tony Kanaan this morning. He said some of you discussed maybe even trying to go down there in single file to ease the situation. It is so tight down there in turn 1.
Well, I believe where I'm going to be starting from, I'm going to be starting on single file anyway because I'm starting 7th. And I don't think there's more room for more than 2 or 3 rows in this straight. I think when they see 2 or 3 rows, everybody's going to be taking off.
All right, mate. Well, good luck this afternoon. Cristiano D'Amata starting from the 4th row. Let's go down to Double D with Scott Dixon.
If I can just make my way past Glennis, Scott's mother here, Stephanie Surrey, his girlfriend, Scott. The eyes are on you. You carry Coors Light, hometown brewery here. But the warm-up, you were fastest and looked very good this morning.
Yeah, the car's been good all weekend. The Team Target Coors Light car's been fast. The guys have done a great job. I think in qualifying, we went a little early maybe, but I didn't seem to get a lap together. So I think a little bit was my fault. I think we had the car to have pole, but yeah, we're not too bad. We're starting off 4, and I think the car, as you said, this morning was very good. So I think we got a very good race car.
Scott, do you take any chances at all in the first half of this race, or do you just try and behave yourself and outlast what might happen?
I don't know. Chip's made it quite apparent that we, it's going to be an endurance race this one, and after Montreal, and a few races, Elkhart Lake, we need to get some points. We'll probably take it a little easier and race at the end.
Thank you, Scott. Let's now go down to another Scott Pruitt.
I'm here with Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy, your problems seem like they continue this morning. Some issues, some engine problems.
Yeah, we had some sort of a misfire, so we had to change the engine. We didn't get many laps at speed, and. But we're optimistic. Our goal here, we have to tune it down a bit to finish because of the heat, and so our goal is just to finish this thing.
Now, not too long ago, you were in a different kind of vehicle down a little south of here, down in Baja. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was down testing an unlimited buggy with Mike and Robbie Groff, and we're gonna race in the Baja together. It's my first time, so I'm a big rookie, but I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun.
Now, when do you actually go down and do the race?
It's the weekend after our last race in Mexico City, so we'll be pretty busy towards the end of the year.
Well, good luck today. Jimmy Vasser, we talk about these guys being multifaceted. Maybe he's going to learn something here in Denver that could apply for Baja. What do you think, guys?
I don't know, but it sounds like pretty cool fun to me. What was it Cristiano D'Amata said? We're going to get through turn 1 and then dance according to the music? Well, that's what we're going to do. We've got lots more pre-race coverage to come as the grandstands continue to fill on a beautiful day on the Rocky Mountain Frontal Range in the capital city of Colorado, Denver. We'll be back.
I'm bouncing off the walls again. Whoa, I'm looking like a fool again. Whoa, I threw away my reputation. One more song for the radio station. I'm bouncing off the walls again. Whoa, and I'm looking like a fool again. Whoa, I'm waking up on the bathroom floor. Pull myself back together just to fall once more.
Back in Denver, hopefully we won't see too much bouncing off the walls in the early laps of the upcoming Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Let's get right to Calvin Fish.
Survey the kart paddock about who's the man in the rain or very slick conditions. Pretty much everyone admits that Christian Fittipaldi is the man. Christian getting a hug there or a fist shake from Paul Newman, one of the co-owners of the team. Christian, you seem to be the man in slick conditions, and this racetrack is something else. It's like driving in the rain. How are you going to approach the race this afternoon?
Keep it on the island. I guess if you keep it on the black stuff and you have a trouble-free race, the chances of being up there at the end of the race are going to be
very big. I think this is the whole trick to it. Track is a good amount bumpy, but this is what we have for this weekend, and we just have to make the best out of it.
All right, Christian, good luck this afternoon. Let's go down to Double D.
Two-time winner this year in the players team, Patrick Carpentier. Patrick, if I just ask you, what is the #1 concern you have this afternoon?
Is to keep the car pointed in the right direction because it's extremely bumpy. So hopefully, if we're there at the end, I think we're going to be good.
Thank you, Patrick.
Tony Kanaan's had some great runs over the last few weeks. A 4th place, a 3rd place last week. What's it going to take to keep the roll going with the Pioneer car today?
Finish the race, Scott. Definitely it's going to be a tough one. The guy that finished this race is going to finish well. So he's going to try to keep 4 wheels together, not going to the runoff areas, and have a clean, smooth race. I mean, the most difficult thing is going to be to definitely keep the pace and don't lose concentration.
Well, best of luck today. All these guys concerned about the same thing, making it to the checkered flag. Guys?
Man, think tight, think fast, think slippery. That's what we're about to get. Let's get a prediction, beginning with Calvin Fish.
Well, I think, as Christian Fittipaldi said, the key is to keep it on the island, and I think Christian may be the man this afternoon. On Friday, he sat on the front row provisionally, didn't really get his qualifying run together yesterday, but he starts 5th. He'll certainly be a factor this afternoon. Scott?
Well, for me, I'm going with Team Fernandez. Either of those guys have been fast since they unloaded the cars off the trailer. Sinji, this could be his day. Adrian, we know he's smart enough, can certainly bring the home in a checkered flag. Either way, it's going to be an exciting race. Derek?
I'm too old to be real brave, but I'm going to be real brave and go with Paul Tracy. Only because of what I saw in the warm-up. I believe he might have the car. I also believe you may see Tracy come into the pits on lap 4 when the window opens. If he does, he's on clear track. If he can keep it off the wall, we're going to make money together. Fellas?
All right, thanks, guys. TK, give me a call.
I'm going to go with Scott Dixon. He has not been in a single highlight. Namely, he hasn't had any incidents. I'm going with Dixon.
And I am going to take Kenny Brack. The guy's too good and too due. We'll be back for the national anthem. Welcome back live to Denver, Colorado. There you see final preparations going on down on the starting grid. A beautiful day, a big crowd on hand, 18 champ cars ready to go. It's time for the invocation. This is His Eminence Archbishop Charles Chaput from the Catholic Archdiocese of Denver.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to please stand and let me hand the microphone over to the Archbishop.
My dear friends, gratitude is the beginning of joy, and here in Denver we have a lot to be grateful for. A great city, a great state, a great day for a great race. So let's turn for a moment to the source of it all and pray. God, our Creator, you created us in your image, you sustain us with your love, you teach us your justice and mercy through our fellowship with one another. Help us to see life as your gift. Help us to live it with joy and enthusiasm, integrity and passion, so that our time in this world leaves behind a legacy of goodness. Thank you for our freedom as a people, and for the men and women of the armed forces who serve in harm's way to protect us. Thank you for the beauty of Colorado, and for the men and women of the Forest Service who have worked so hard this year to defend it. Bless our time together today. Bless the drivers, their families, and crews, and everyone who has labored so long and so well to bring this day to fruition. Grant that this race will be a source of pride for our whole community. We ask this as your children with confidence in your name. Amen. And let's bow now for a moment of prayer and gratitude for those who have defended our country and who have protected our state.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. It's time for the national anthem to be sung today by a representative of our many thousands of fire and police department heroes across the nation. From your very own Denver Fire Department, please welcome firefighter Neil Cole. Neil?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proud glass gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about ready for those 4 magic words to turn them loose. The microphone will go over to a trio of Russell Kaplan from Shell, Don Griffith, Emergency Service Coordinator for Larimer County Sheriff's Office, and Mike Babler, District Forester for the Colorado State Forestry Service. Gentlemen, you are a trio. It's time, I do believe.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
All right, let's rock and roll this place. By the way, the F-16...
More than 15,000 horsepower come to life on the streets of Denver, Colorado. We'll be back in a moment for round 14 of the CART FedEx Championship. 21 days ago, the CART FedEx Champ Cars raced in Ohio, where championship leader Cristiano Romata committed a rare misstep. Patrick Carpentier ran to the checkers and ran again later. 14 days ago, they were back at it in Wisconsin, where D'Amata regained his form and fattened his points lead with his 6th victory of the season. 7 days ago found the series in Montreal, where D'Amata's team rolled the dice on pit strategy and lost, finishing second to Dario Franchitti, whose 2nd win of the season in Canada lifted him to 2nd place in the championship standing. Today, for the 4th Sunday in a row, the Champ Cars and their bleary-eyed crews are racing, this time on a diabolically difficult new street circuit in the Colorado capital. If it's Labor Day, this must be Denver. On a beautiful Labor Day weekend in Denver, welcome to the inaugural running of the FedEx Championship Series Shell Grand Prix of Denver. 4 races in as many weekends may be simple in stock cars, but in the high-tech Champ Cars, it's a whole different ballgame. I'm Bob Barsha with Tommy Kendall alongside, and here's the way they'll line up for today's race. On the pole for the 3rd time this season, Bruno Junqueira, Brazil, starts next to Adrian Fernandez on the front row for the first time since June. It's been a difficult weekend for both men. Despite their success in qualifying, Friday morning, Junqueira slid wide in turn 1 and clouded the tire wall. Afterwards, he was furious with himself. On Saturday, it was Fernandez's turn. He didn't get as far into the tires as Junqueira by any means. But still, it was an example of how difficult turn 1 can be here in Denver. On row 2, Shinji Nakano has his best qualifying performance ever. He'll be next to the quickest man in the morning warm-up, Scott Dixon. On row 3, Christian Fittipaldi out-qualified his points-leading teammate Cristiano D'Amata for the 3rd time this year. He'll start next to Kenny Burek, who crashed in the warm-up. Derek Daly.
Bob, this is a spectacular new event for a kart, and it's a real test of man and machine. Man, because you have to have discipline, and you have to have the deft touch, the delicate touch. You also have to have patience. Christian Fittipaldi lost his patience during an earlier practice session after Shinji Nakano hit him, turned him almost upside down. Christian did this. He blocked him all the way down the next race, and for that he was fined $2,500. That type of behavior will not win you under the race under these difficult circumstances. Bob?
Thanks, Derek. Moving back to row 4. Worst qualifying performance on a road or street circuit this year for Cristiano D'Amata. He'll start next to Patrick Carpentier, with whom he dueled 4 weeks ago in Ohio. Row 5 will be Tony Kanaan and Michel Jourdain Jr. Calvin Fish.
Bob, the bad news for Cristiano D'Amata is that he is mired in the pack, starting 7th on the 4th row of the grid. The good news is he has a 55-point lead in the championship. He can afford to be conservative, but being conservative is surviving the first corner in particular and the first lap if he's to increase his points lead today.
Thanks, Calvin. Moving to row 6. There you'll find Jimmy Vasser in the shell car for Team Ray Hall, starting next to Alex Tagliani. On row 7, Oriol Servia and Dario Franchitti, the winner a week ago in Montreal. Scott Pruitt.
Huge struggles for Team Cool Green this weekend, especially with Dario Franchitti. So dominant last week at Montreal, really struggling here. I talked to him right after warm-up this morning. I said, Dario, what's wrong with the car? He says, well, you know what? If we knew, we'd fix it. The biggest problem is it's just sliding. We cannot get a hold of the racetrack. The good thing is we feel like we've made some big headway with the car and looking forward to the race today. Bob?
Thanks, Scott. On row 8, Paul Tracy and Mario Dominguez. Row 9 will be Michael Andretti and Tora Takagi. Andretti raced here in 90 and 91. Let's go to the voice of race control, Irene Chambers. Jim Swintal waves the green. We're underway. Bruno Junqueira gets into turn 1. Gently, boys.
Look how careful they're being.
As Cristiano D'Amata said before the race began, what we'll do is try to get through the first lap and then dance to the music.
I saw Paul having a look at Dario.
Now the long blast up around 190 miles an hour to this corner, the trademark of the new circuit in Denver, the mile-wide turn. Oh, look at Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy having trouble on the inside, but then Servia was getting crossed up on the outside, and they just pitched Dario right down into the middle.
The Team Green teammates got together. Franchitti's car is damaged right front. The Montreal winner a week ago is done.
You heard Dario thanking Paul on the radio.
Tracy's car appears to be undamaged.
You can see his dive planes right in front of the right rear wheel have been knocked loose. Won't be a huge issue with all the corners being as slow as they are here. You see Servia on the outside pinching in on Dario. Paul got in too hot on the inside, couldn't get it stopped on the slippery stuff, and launched over the front of Dario's left front.
Looks like the damage was actually done to Franchitti by Servia.
Wow. Now, Paul was running on a part of the racetrack where nobody has run all weekend. Down on the inside there, it probably looked like a decent move when he got in there. It's probably the first time he's been down there, and just even less grip than the already slippery online.
Another look. Dario Franchitti comes in second in
real
points.
Crossed up out there, and then when he gathers it up, he heads for the apex. But here come Paul and Dario. If any two of those cars probably would have made it through, but all three together converged into one spot. Paul just keeps it buried. Look how far. I mean, this is an ambitious move, but it looks like that Dario could have given him. Whoa! Look at that. Got up on the left side. Keeps his foot in it. Never comes to a stop. In a Dramamine after that one.
Tough break for Franchitti. Second in points coming in after winning last week in Montreal, but this would be his 7th DNF in 14 races. There's the race leader, Bruno Junqueira. Adrian Fernandez is second, then Scott Dixon, Shinji Nakano, Christian Fittipaldi, and Kenny Brack. Good look at Adrian Fernandez. What a season he's had. Terrible time getting results, then the big crash in Vancouver that left him with hairline fractures of his pelvis and heavy bruising. Missed some racing. Picking up Scott Dixon in the new Coors Light colors for local sponsor Coors Brewery. The same target Chip Ganassi racing car. There's Shinji Nakano, lost the spot to Dixon at the green flag. Hear the sputtering sound from the engines. It indicates the traction control is working. Off the concrete, onto the asphalt, brick inlay at some of the parts of this 1.647 mile circuit. Let's get more from Calvin Fish.
Well, I think you can really sum up the Team Cool Green's reaction down here with disgust in Dario Franchitti's pit. They looked at the replay and they just couldn't believe that Paul had made that move on the opening lap. They've struggled all weekend, but they realized anything can happen. If Cristiano D'Amato doesn't finish this one, Dario still had a chance to close in the points race. Let's see what the story is down in Tracy's pit. Scott?
And a follow-up to Paul. We heard he might be getting a drive-through. I talked to Barry Green. He talked to Paul, asking about what kind of damage is. I think we just got up in the air pretty big. I don't think there's any damage. The car feels pretty good right now. I'll call in if I find out anything, but so far, so good.
All right, thanks, guys. We are working lap number 5, which means the first of the 3 pit windows is now open. A 3-stop race, 32-lap maximum run before you must pit in this 100-lap race. Towards Akagi, straight ahead of Paul Tracy on the road. Further up, it's Kenny Brack in the red and white car from Target Chip Ganassi Racing, leading Cristiano D'Amato, the points leader, by 55 coming in. He is 7th. D'Amato simply dominated road and street course qualifying this year, but here in Denver, he's had more than his share of problems and rarely been close to the top of the time charts. Saw the graphic said black flag number 6, actually number 26, Paul Tracy.
They're black flagging Paul. They're calling it unjustifiable risk. I think that is an absolute joke. It's very much like the wreck in Toronto with Townsend Bell. Those two guys were having their battle, he and Dario. Oriol got crossed up on the outside. Granted, it turned out wrong, but if Oriol is not there and does not come diving for the apex, Dario can adjust and slide up a little bit. So, sure, it was an aggressive move, but it was complicated by the third car. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, he already sat there and spun around the escape road for a while. That's enough of a penalty for me. Hit him with a fine if you want, but don't black flag him.
Watching Kenny Brack, who's had his share of DNFs thus far this year. Back onto the concrete, swinging onto the start-finish straightaway. Pits on the left as they make their way down Aurora Parkway here in Denver, Colorado. Begin another lap, working number 7. No one in the pits yet. We'll be back with more live from the Shell Grand Prix of Denver in just a moment. Tracy is in. Speed Channel's coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series Shell Grand Prix of Denver is brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. By Bridgestone, advanced technology that gives you a grip on the future. And by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. There's a look down on Invesco Field at Mile High, where the Denver Broncos played Thursday night. Colorado and Colorado State played yesterday. That's the view from our Honda Skycam. Lower right of your screen, the Pepsi Center, home to the NBA Nuggets and NHL Colorado Avalanche, and today, home to the Champ Cars. Let's take a look at our race analysis. 100 laps of racing. We're currently working lap 10. Of course, we're a mile high, almost to the foot. Top speeds touching 190 miles an hour. The slower corners down to about 60. 32-lap pit window. It has already opened. No one has taken advantage of the opportunity to take service. 25 shifts per lap, and even I can do the math. Tell you how many that is for 100 laps. On board with Bruno Junqueira, the race leader. Let's get to Calvin Fish.
We're going to try and catch a word here with Chip Ganassi. Chip, good start to the race. Bruno up front, nice and clean, and Kenny made it through the first lap. That's not been easy lately. What did you tell your 3 boys before the off today on this very difficult racetrack?
Galvin, I think we just said, look, you know, it looks like it's going to be a race of attrition. We saw what happened last week in Montreal.
We just want to be out there at the end. I think if you're out there at the end, you're going to be at the front.
What sort of pace is Bruno running right now? Does he have more available to him, or is he just being conservative?
He certainly has more available to him. We're telling him to slow down a bit and just take it easy on the equipment.
Okay, thanks, Chip. Good luck this afternoon. Let's go down to Scott Prix.
A quick update on Adrian Fernandez. Got done talking to his engineer, Don Halliday. Any problems? He said, no, everything's going good. Just tell him to be very conservative. I said, what about the water temp? How's the engine doing? He says, it's getting hot. We're trying to monitor that. And for his teammate, Sinji, talked to his team manager, Tom Anderson. Virtually the same thing, except he said, right now, no problem cooling at all. So it looks like his teammate might be in a little bit better shape. Guys?
All right, thanks very much. Adrian Fernandez is dropping back, falling into the clutches of third place Scott Dixon. Up front, Bruno Junqueira now out front by 4.2 seconds. We'll take a close look at the right side rear arrow.
And that's probably not hurting him too badly. Almost all the corners here are pretty slow speed. So every bit of downforce helps, but that's probably not hurting him. He's running very, very competitive lap times. He served that black flag penalty. Now he's at the back. That removes the option for him of getting out of sequence and using that speed. So if they can get a yellow, he can get out of sequence on the next stop. Derek, you have more?
I'm here with Barry Green. Barry, I know racing is full of frustrations, but having viewed the incident, do you think Paul deserved the black flag?
Well, Derek, no, I got to fight for my driver. I don't think he did. But having said that, I'm mad at him right now. He took his teammate out, and it's been a tough weekend. That's one corner we've had a lot of trouble with all weekend. We never had the setup. We never gave the drivers a setup this weekend. We qualified down the back, and Paul's not the most patient driver, but we talk about it, and it's twice as bad when you take your own teammate out. But we'll see what happens. It's just too bad because Dario, after last weekend's win in Montreal, was climbing back up the championship, and of course no points this weekend for him.
Thank you, Barry. You can just hear the frustration, Bob, can't you, in his voice?
Oh, yes, Derek. On board with Paul Tracy once again in the visor cam. Here's a look at the championship coming in. Cristiano D'Amata picked up no bonus points in qualifying. That's been very unusual for him on a rotor street circuit this year. He leads Dario Franchitti by 55 coming in. Franchitti will almost certainly drop out of that position in the championship. Bruno Junqueira did pick up a championship point for pole, so he has sole possession of third place in the championship, and he leads the race. This is the battle for second. Adrian Fernandez appears to be holding up Scott Dixon a bit, Tommy.
Yeah, he's definitely holding up. Every lap, Dixon's lap time is almost identical to Adrian's, and but I don't think he's going to take a chance this early to get by. They might try to do something on either just straight out duel him in the pits, or maybe do something strategy-wise to try to get him past. It's a little early to be pressing too much, taking any chances, but he's got to be frustrated watching Bruno disappear, knowing he's got a car that might be able to run with him.
We saw Tora Takagi exiting the pit lane. He is the first driver to pit for Walker Racing on lap 13. Let's get more on Scott Dixon from Calvin Fish.
Well, TK, you're absolutely on the money. I just spoke to Scott Dixon's crew, and they said we're just playing it nice and easy right now. We need to get a few more laps under our belts, and then we'll play things out in the pit stops and the caution periods. What's the news down the other end, Scott?
Sounds like with the Pioneer car and Tony Kanaan maybe having some heating issues. Tony's calling in saying this thing's running too hot. Following up on both Team Rahal cars, they're getting good mileage and the temperature is looking good. So all that body work cutting away we saw earlier looks to be paying off. Derek?
With Derek Walker here. Derek, you're the first one to show your hand to come out of sequence. Why?
Well, if you look at it, Derek, we were in traffic. We couldn't really gain any position. We only had Paul Tracy behind us, so we only lost one spot. The leader's a little bit closer to us than we wanted, but later on, there's a chance of yellows. It might play into our favor.
Thank you, Derek. Of course, that's the gamble coming out of sequence. Can you get it done and get out before that leader catches you and hopefully does not put you a lap down?
You ride with Tora Takagi. 5 top 10 finishes this year for the Japanese driver from Walker Racing. That's the sound of the Toyota turbocharged V8. It's the turn 6 and 7 complex. Basically calamity corners this weekend. Lots of spinning, and Takagi almost lost the handle right there. We'll take a quick break. Pit stops coming up in the not too distant future. We'll be back to Denver in a moment. Welcome back live to Denver, Colorado, here on Speed Channel. Be sure to tune in tonight for the Sunday edition of Speed News. All NASCAR for 30 minutes beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, followed by 30 minutes of the rest of the motorsports news. It's Speed News. Dave Despain and Ralph Shaheen, your host this evening, beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, only here on Speed Channel. There's the view from our Honda race cam high above the new circuit around the Pepsi Center here in downtown Denver. I'm Bob Barcia with Tommy Kendall. Let's take a closer look at the track.
Well, this is the start-finish line here, and that's turn 1 where we had Adrian hit, Brack hit, Bruno hit, Patrick hit. You get the idea. Very, very difficult circuits. It kind of has a split personality. The first half of the circuit from here to here is concrete, very bumpy, but reasonable grip. The second half, including turn 5 where Paul Tracy, Dario, and Oriol got together, is mostly asphalt that is very smooth but has almost no grip.
Looking down once again, that is Tora Takagi, who pitted. He has been caught by the race leader, Bruno Junqueira. Now you see Adrian Fernandez and Scott Dixon closing up on the Japanese driver. There is Junqueira, who has been drawing away. He was out to more than 5 seconds, but when bottled up behind Takagi, that gap came down to 4.3.
But now he's getting the benefit of the other guys being bottled up behind. And I would imagine, at least as far as staying on the lead lap, now that he's a lap down, it's a lot easier, or it's a lot more reasonable for him to just pull over and get out of the way of those guys. You fight to keep the leader behind you, but there's not much sense in fighting second, third, and fourth. I imagine Chris Knife will be keeping a pretty close eye on that, and in short order being asking for Tora to yield. There he goes.
Out of turn 5. Oh, Dixon right up on the back of the Denso car. They'll out-drag him down to 6. Now Dixon can continue his battle with Fernandez. Shinji Nakano will be the next driver to come upon Tora Takagi. Christian Fittipaldi in yellow and white. Now this could be interesting. Back on Friday, Shinji Nakano and Christian Fittipaldi got together. Nakano tried to come up the inside, got into the side of Fittipaldi, who was so irate that he wandered all over a green racetrack, blocking Nakano down the straightaway from turn 5 to turn 6. For that he was slapped with a $2,500 fine, $1,500 of it suspended for blocking. You see Takagi trying to go wide and let the unlapped cars through without tossing himself out to the wall, even in the mile-wide corner. Dario Franchitti is back in the pit area. Calvin Fish is with him.
Dario, total frustration there. I mean, I'm sure Paul and you discussed the first lap and getting through it. And what about the move there in turn 5?
I talked to Paul about it. I talked to a couple of guys running about me, but at the start we all just decided, look, it's a long race. Let's get through the first lap. There's no need to be crazy on the first lap. If you make a move, good. We talked to Paul. I talked to Paul about it, but as usual, Paul gets behind the wheel and just goes crazy.
It seems to be feast or famine for you, either winning races or not finishing. Championship at this stage?
Championship's gone, for sure. I mean, time's getting short. And your own teammate to take you out like that, it's just, what can I say?
I think he's lost for words right now. Total disgust on the team down here. Let's get it back up top.
There's another couple of looks at the incident between the Team Green teammates. Here are the numbers on Dario. 2 victories, 6 podiums in 13 races coming in, but just 1 top 10 finish in those other 7 races. Feast or famine indeed. We're guessing that Dario will likely drop to 4th in the championship today.
I've got to give Tora a nod. This is not, he was trying to get out of sequence, and now that it's gone wrong, he is really doing a nice job of getting out of everybody's way.
Tires should be up to temperature by now, surely. Back to the battle between Nakano and Christian Fittipaldi. Let's get more on Christian from Derek Daly.
Bob just had a discussion with Craig Hampson, Christian Fittipaldi's engineer. He said this is a pure strategic run until this first pit stop. He believes he is a little bit quicker than Shinji Nakano, but will not make a daring move. Just let the laps run, and they're watching Dixon and Nakano's lap times, and that's how they're basing what potential decisions they may make, but not before the first round of pit stops.
4 podiums for Christian Fittipaldi among 7 top 10 finishes thus far this year. Chance to move up in the championship in what could be his last season in the Champ Cars for some time. We'll be back with more live from Denver in a moment. Welcome back to Denver. You ride with the shifter cam in the car of Bruno Junqueira, race leader, working lap number 24 of 100 here in the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Here's a look at the fastest laps of the race. Junqueira right out front by 2/10 over Scott Dixon. Those laps set very early in the run. This is lap 24. We expect all of the cars, with the exception of Tora Takagi, to pit at the window on lap 32. That is the top end on this racetrack. Fastest part of the track, Patrick Carpentier going through there at about a $1.88. Michael Andretti has spun. That's in turn 1. He roasts a set of Bridgestones, getting moving again. Michael, the only driver in this series who drove the last time the Champ Cars visited Denver at a different location in the city back in 1990 and 91. Took pole in 91 and finished 3rd after finishing 5th the previous year. Good job by that cameraman just to pan with those guys booking through there at that speed. There's Michael. Worked his way up to 14th from 17th at the start. Calvin Fish.
Quick update on Patrick Carpentier. The Reynard boys expected to struggle here. Their cars are very sensitive to ride height, and with the bumps, you have to lift the car off the ground so it doesn't crash the deck. Now, they've made a lot of progress over the weekend. They were last on Friday, ended up qualifying 8th, but right now, Patrick has said his tires are absolutely shot. He's really struggling to hold on to the race car. He may pit early. Scott Pruitt.
A quick update on Michael. We called in a couple laps earlier saying, I'm having some brake problems. They're telling him, well, maybe try and go move the brake bias around maybe a little bit more to the front. That could be the cause of his spin. Guys.
Michael Andretti started on the last row of this race for the 4th time this year. Michael started on the last row. He's had horrible trouble in qualifying this year. Whoa, Paul Tracy almost overshot badly at turn 5. Just ahead of him on the road is Mario Dominguez, the rookie from Mexico City. Dominguez has been given a warning about blocking, Tracy.
That's the way the rule is written. The chief steward issues a warning before any penalty is assessed.
There's the pit in on the left. This is turn 9. On with the start-finish straightaway.
Dario Franchitti was in the TV truck. He thought he might be able to get video proof after all these years of the existence of red mist. It's a lot like Bigfoot. Everybody talks about it, but nobody has seen it. He's got the visor cracked, so there's no red mist in there now.
Fastest part of the track. Here comes turn 5. Laps from the maximum pit window. That's why the 32 is written on the hub of Paul's steering wheel. Lap 32, he must be in.
And a lot of the engineers, the people calling the race strategy, have talked to their guys saying you need to close up behind the guy right in front of you. D'Amato's team says we need you closer to Kenny. The answer came back, I am trying.
We'll be back in a moment with more live from the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Welcome back. You're riding the suspension of Tora Takagi's Reynard. The Formula One Belgian Grand Prix was interesting, and if you missed it, catch the encore presentation tonight here on Speed Channel, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Smart money is on one of the Ferraris. Welcome back. I'm Bob Varsha with Tommy Kendall. Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Scott Pruitt are in the pit lane, and out front by 6.3 seconds at this juncture is Bruno Junqueira, who started from pole in the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver, working lap number 30. He'll get 2 more laps, then he will pit, and he'll be followed by nearly the entire field, the only exception being Tora Takagi, who's a lap down in 17th.
And one thing that this gap does for Bruno is it gives him the ability to, he doesn't have to worry about someone leapfrogging him by being stopped for a second less or so. He can take on a big load of fuel while he has this breathing room, and that'll make the rest of his stops shorter by having all that extra fuel on board.
Scott Dixon continues to run behind Adrian Fernandez. That's a bit of a surprise. Dixon was very quick, fastest man in the morning warm-up. He hasn't been able to get around Fernandez.
Now there's someone who might employ that short fill and maybe take a little bit less than a full load, trying to get by Adrian to get him out in front, and then maybe build up a bit of a cushion so that when he has to make the longer fill, he would have some breathing room. And you heard about Chip Ganassi saying, you know, we're telling Bruno to slow down and save the car. That might seem like an oxymoron. How can you do that? The areas that they would save the car are in RPM. The RPM is what is creating most of the heat. The other area is in the brakes. So you would short shift a little bit and then maybe brake a little bit earlier, maybe release the brakes and roll the car into the corner a little bit more to save the brakes in those 2 areas. You'd still drive the tires hard because those are going to come off, and you'd still drive hard in all the other ways, but maybe short shift a little bit and take it easy on the brakes.
Be looking up the road for Michael Andretti, who has shown a full minute behind race leader Bruno Junqueira. There is Michael, trying desperately to stay on the lead lap by the time it comes to pit. Junqueira stayed out.
The number they use is 1 degree of water temperature per 100 revs. So if you wanted to lower the water temp 10 degrees and you short shifted by 1,000, it should do that.
Pit now, pit now.
There you have it.
The battle to watch is the one for second with Adrian and Scott Dixon.
There's the gap. Back to the battle for second between Fernandez and Dixon. Seiji Nakano runs 4th, Christian Fittipaldi 5th. Pit entry coming up. Leader is in. Scott Pruitt awaits him. Nice
Currently waiting for Adrian Fernandez. Bruno Junqueira on his way by. Adrian Fernandez on his way in. It's going to be a standard
a clean
stop.
exit, a clean exit.
The difference
Come
is they're
down
going to
the
do
third car
4
pit there.
tires, and when the tires are done, they're going to
3,
call
2,
a short
1,
stop.
turn.
Pull
There
the
you go.
fuel. 4 brand new Bridgestones going on, waiting for the fuel. Fuel's out, and they're on their way. Very quick stop. 7.5.
And race leader Bruno Junqueira is in tyres only. Very quick start for that team. And we're going to await Cristiano D'Amata as he now makes his way to the pit stall. We expect no changes on D'Amata's car. There were no changes on Junqueira. It'll be tyres and a splash of fuel. The rest of the field stream by. Fittipaldi's out. Bracker's out. Cristiano D'Amata should assume 7th position. He's out of here. Good clean start for Newman Haas.
Away goes Cristiano D'Amata.
Down here with Oriol Servia, same thing. Came in, 4 new Bridgestones. When the tires were done, they pulled the fuel. A short stop for these guys as well. About 7.5 seconds, a great stop.
Bruno Junqueira back out in the race lead. Derek Daly.
And Bob Tracy is putting on brand new sticker tires. Now there's the choice. Some people hate sticker tires, particularly Tony Kinnan. Great stuff. As soon as the tires were on, they sent them out. No, I don't believe they put a full fuel load in Tracy's car.
Was that Michael Andretti who got out ahead of Paul?
I think it's Mario Dominguez.
I think you're right. Oh, it looks like he's trying the Mexican driver. As soon as they leave, can't get by.
Here comes turn 5.
Oh, my. Stand by for news. Oh, Dominguez almost lost it. He knows PT is coming. Outside.
Oh, he was going to try to cross back underneath.
Couldn't get it turned. Now drag race. Oh, give the rookie credit. He'll go toe-to-toe with the veteran.
Dominguez obviously not too intimidated by that blocking warning.
Well, this certainly looks like a straight fight to me. Turn one, slippery. And there you go. And credit to Dominguez for giving up the corner, too. Great dice. So Tracy by into 14th. Here's the order. Junqueira, Fernandez, Dixon, Nakano, Fittipaldi, no change. Breck, D'Amata, no change. Carpentier, Canan, and Vassar, the top 10. Good move by Jimmy Vassar to get ahead of his teammate, Michel Jourdain Jr., who runs 11th. We'll take a break and return live to Denver. Stay with us.
Welcome back, everybody, to the streets of downtown Denver. We have just enjoyed the most spectacular shots all weekend long here. These are from our Honda Skycam. To give you an idea of the economic impact of an event like this that CART brings to your town, it is expected to generate in excess of $30 million injected into the local economy. Nice numbers.
Nice indeed. Thank you, Derek. Bob Varsha and Tommy Kendall with you at the announce position. Scott Pruitt and Calvin Fisher in the pit lane with Double D. Second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, all running nose to tail here on lap number 38 of 100.
And that tells me that Adrian Fernandez is, running a bit slower than all these guys. I'm sure all these teams and drivers are really surprised that we haven't had a caution yet. I'm sure they were letting Bruno get away, just kind of settling in, figuring the race would be filled with caution. That fear probably has led everyone to be a little more conservative, and hence no cautions.
Of that group, fastest man last time by was Christian Fittipaldi, running fifth behind Shinji Nakano, 63.920 seconds. There's Fittipaldi bringing up the rear. He's been quick around here all weekend. Out-qualified his teammate, the championship leader, Cristiano D'Amata, for the third time this year. Brazilian will turn his attentions to stock car racing next year.
I think his little Friday thing with Nakano, he's just getting ready for a little post-Bristol shoving match.
Christian has been one of the drivers who's been very philosophical and even-handed about the difficulties all the teams have faced on this bumpy, slippery circuit. He said, hey, we all have to race on it. It's what we've got, so let's stop complaining and set up the cars to suit the racetrack.
Chris Pook made some comments also. Actually, I'll get to those in a second. This is a foot cam with Mario Dominguez. This is a left foot brake. It's Fernandez, I'm sorry. Look how far the brake pedal is traveling. We don't have a view to contrast that, but that is a lot more brake travel than you would see on another circuit. And brake travel can come from one of two things. We've talked about before, sometimes when you have a rough circuit and guys use the curbs, the pads get knocked away from the rotors, and you need to pump it up to get the pads back next to the rotors. I would imagine that the long pedal here is because of the heat. If you get any boiling whatsoever in the fluid, get some air coming out of solution in the brake fluid, you'll start getting a long pedal, and that could explain why Adrian is having trouble keeping the pace of Junqueira and holding those guys up.
We're hearing a couple of words up and down the pit lane about soft brake pedals. Tony Kanaan has one. Let's get more on Adrian with Scott Pruitt.
Well, Tommy, that's exactly what's going on. I had a chance to talk with Don Halliday, his engineer. I said, how things going? I think things are getting a little hot. The brakes especially. I said, bad? He said, no, we just have to be careful. Brake pedal is getting a little bit long. Guys?
That's how Fernandez lifts his foot off the pedal. Just a fraction when he's not using it. Boy, that's a lot of travel. Calvin Fish.
Quick update on the brake situation. I spoke to the performance friction people and they said the problem is not the extreme temperature that you see. For example, in Montreal last weekend we saw 1800 degrees Fahrenheit on the rotors themselves. Here it's only 1500 because of the low grip nature of the racetrack. The problem is they don't cool down. At Montreal the average temperature for the lap was 1150. Here it's over 1200, so that's the concern for the teams, and we're starting to see that take effect today.
I think Scott Dixon starting to get a little impatient with Adrian Fernandez. He took a real long look down the inside. A little too far back to try anything in turn one.
And the average temperature, what it does, it's a function of two things. It's not only the thin air that we have here. The guys are running substantially bigger brake ducts, so you might be getting a comparable amount of air over the brakes. But what you have with the average temperature, the heat soaks from the rotor through the pad, through the pistons, into the fluid. So at Montreal, the long pedal was caused by brake wear, and here comes Dixon looking again. Ooh. Yeah, I think Adrian is really starting to hold him up a bunch, and he figures he can't wait much longer. Yeah, the pace has fallen off. Bruno's at a 103 flat, Fernandez 104.4. Look for him to try again right here.
Dixon will try to close up. Nope, not close enough, I'm guessing. Getting lap 42, Scott Pruitt.
A quick update on Fernandez. All of a sudden, too much tire pressure. The car is sliding around way too much. On the next pit stop, they're going to drop it down a couple pounds. But right now, they're saying, Adrian, just hold on, be smart, keep it tidy. Guys?
Adrian Fernandez, one of the three amigos from Mexico. Fernandez, Dominguez, and Jourdain. They will be the stars when we journey to Mexico City November 17th. It's going to be fabulous. You want to be with us for that for sure. Chip Ganassi has something on his mind. Welcome back to Denver. Our first Toyota Spotlight of the day deals with yesterday's dramatic final round of the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the elite rung on the kart development ladder. Down in turn one, rookie Kyle Krzyzolow took a pounding. Last year's National Amateur Formula Ford champion has had a very steep learning curve in the Pro Atlantics this year. Ryan Dial, the pole sitter, went wide down in turn 5. That gave John Fogarty the lead. A couple of drivers got together. That was Eduardo Figueroa and Eric Jensen. Michael Valiente in black. Points leader coming in by 6. Spun out of 4th place all the way back to 12th at the finish, and he could not recover. That left the road open for John Fogarty. There is the reaction of Valiente's mother, Bev, watching her son's championship hope slip away. But for Doricott Racing, Phyllis Doricott on the right, widow of the team founder, the bittersweet season ended in triumph. John Fogarty is the 2002 Toyota Atlantic champion. Here's a look at the final point standings among the Atlantics. Fogarty over Michael Valiente by 11. One of the closest finishes in Atlantic history. Alex Gurney, son of Dan and Evie, finished in 3rd place, followed by Luis Diaz and Rocky Moran Jr., another second-generation driver. Let's go to Scott Pruitt with the champ.
And I'm here with the champion right now, John Fogarty. You were talking about kind of a late night last night, little celebration?
Yeah, we went out with the crew, had some fun, but we're going to have to do it again tonight because tonight's our banquet. So I was getting some practice.
Well, terrific job. Congratulations. Couldn't be happier for the whole Doricott team. Enjoy the championship.
Is it me, Tommy, or did he look a little bit the worse for wear, having celebrated his championship last night?
I hope he does.
Kenny Brack is there in the pits.
Well, Kenny had been complaining, Bob, about a loose car, and they're really out of sequence here, but they'll still be able to do this on just 2 more stops. So Kenny Brack heads back out, but not a scheduled stop for these guys. I think they believe they're losing too much time.
Most everybody on the racetrack, Kenny. We're trying to get you to the spot here.
Crowded down there. Now, while we were away, this was Chip Ganassi talking with the kart officials, and you know exactly what he's talking about, TK.
Yeah, he's politicking, trying to get Dixon around Fernandez.
Can't make out quite what he's saying, but I'm sure it's colorful.
Fernandez is definitely holding everybody up, but from what I've seen, we haven't seen him all the way around the track every lap. I don't see him blocking. I don't even see him being defensive. So you're asking the stewards to pull the second place guy out of position? Rub a lamp.
On board with Adrian Fernandez. He's probably oblivious to all that going on behind him. Calvin Fish has more on Chip's problem.
Well, Chip Ganassi has been going absolutely ballistic. He's been shouting at this card official to say, you got to get Dominguez out of the way. And to compound matters, we obviously have Fernandez running a lot slower than he was and holding up Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon said, I can't believe how slow Adrian is running right now. But just to update his situation, he was more concerned about his gearbox coming into the race. They broke a differential in Montreal, and they were really concerned about what the traction control was doing to the rear end of the car and when it oscillates when the traction control kicks in. So he's actually dialing that out, TK, not really using that driver aid, but more concerned about durability today.
There's the battle for second. Fernandez and Dixon now 10 seconds behind race leader Bruno Junqueira. In a press conference early today, a number of team owners or team representatives showed up to declare their intentions to be back in the Kart FedEx Championship Series last year. And one of those teams represented was Fernandez Racing. Tom Anderson, the team manager and one of the partners in the operation, says it's all buttoned up. Adrian Fernandez will be back with at least one car next year. Coming up to complete lap 48. The next scheduled pit stop will be on lap 64. Running in fourth place, turning quick laps. In fact, the quickest of that group last time by at 62.875 seconds. Having a great race. Scott Pruitt has more.
And a follow-up to that, speaking with Tom Anderson, I asked him, how's the car? He says, wow. He says, surprising, everything's going better than we expected. I said, any problems, any issues? He says, the cooling's great. Shinji's doing a terrific job. They're happy with the car. It's doing exactly what we needed to. And Shinji's doing a terrific job. He's keeping his nose clean and keeping everything out of trouble. Our day is going great, guys.
I'd have to say so. Best qualifying performance of his Champ Car career. Driving well. Bruno Junqueira has opened up his lead by nearly 4 seconds since the pit stops. So the Brazilian is flying. We'll take a quick break and return to the streets of Denver, Colorado in a moment. Back live over Denver, Colorado, looking off to the northeast and Nebraska beyond. Welcome to the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver here on Speed Channel. I'm Bob Varsha with Tommy Kendall, Derek Daly, Calvin Fish, and Scott Pruitt are in the pit lane. Moments ago, Bruno Junqueira clinched the championship bonus point for lap leadership, leading all 51 laps completed thus far in this 100-lap race. Cristiano Damata now runs 6th. Patrick Carpentier 7th. As you see, there's a look at 11 through 15. Only one car officially out of the race at this point. Dario Franchitti collided with Oriol Servia and teammate Paul Tracy on lap 1. He is the only car out of the race. Mario Dominguez, Michael Andretti, and Toru Takagi all run one lap down, 15th, 16th, and 17th. Now, Chip Ganassi has been haranguing the kart officials, arguing that his man Scott Dixon is being held up by Adrian Fernandez. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Chip, you've been getting pretty fired up here the last few minutes, talking to the kart officials. First with Dominguez holding up the race leader Bruno, and certainly Fernandez has slowed his pace considerably.
Well, you know, what happens is you get these back markers, they hold the leader up for 10 laps. It doesn't happen in any other series in the world where they can get away with that. In this series, they let the leader, they let him block the leader. Well, then when the second place car comes, they let him right by. So he blocks us for 10 laps, then the next guy comes by, lets him right by after he wakes up to the fact. The guy was early on in the race was getting accused of blocking a 16th place car. For the leader, they wouldn't say that he was blocking us. It slowed us down. It took our second place, our distance over second place shrunk.
Well, I think if we had some telemetry on Chip, his blood pressure certainly calmed down a little bit from 10 minutes ago, and finally the leader did get around Mario, but certainly frustration down here in Target Chip Ganassi pit.
I guess I owe Chip an apology. If he was, that's worth getting heated over. You don't expect a lap guy to pull over, but we did see Dominguez was blocking pretty aggressively on Paul Tracy, and I imagine he was probably doing the same thing to stay on the lead lap to Bruno Junqueira, and that's the kind of thing that would bring your blood to a boil.
Yeah, I'll second that apology. We didn't see Dominguez actually blocking Bruno Junqueira, and I'll bet Chip ended his conversation with Calvin with a smile. There's Cristiano D'Amata, still driving in 6th place. Now, this is a guy who normally just rockets to the front and leads everybody. He has been struggling this weekend for him here on the streets of Denver. But he said earlier this week that his team, the Newman Haas squad, is definitely in championship mode now. They're being very conservative on setup, on race strategy, and he's being a bit conservative behind the wheel as well.
Now here's a story we need to follow. Kenny Brack was at the tail end of that queue behind Adrian Fernandez. They pulled him out of sequence, which ordinarily doesn't work because of the extra time you lose when you come out on cold tires. But if Adrian runs slow enough for long enough, look at the clear track in front of Kenny Brack. We'll see if he's able to, he's running a good bit quicker on some laps than that whole group. As the stops cycle through, he can go on 2 more stops just like everybody else. So he's going to be putting his head down, trying to run some good laps here to cycle his way up and maybe be the surprise of the race if he's on clear track for long enough, leapfrog past all those guys 5th through 2nd.
Right now, Lola chassis run 1st through 6th. The highest running Reynard right now is Patrick Carpentier in 7th. With more on the Lolas, here's Scott Pruitt.
I just got done speaking with a Lola representative. I said, how much time and effort and energy did you guys do before coming here, knowing you had to work on cooling? He said, actually, we did quite a bit. We took a car into the tunnel. The biggest fight is not losing downforce when you start making up all these openings. We spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel, looking at different opening configurations, trying to get more air through the radiators, and then all that information we passed on to each Lola team. At that point, they could do whatever they wanted to. Do what Lola suggested or do something on their own. And what we've seen up and down pit lane looks like there's a little bit of both. Guys?
Thank you, Scott. A lot of nose to tail running there. From that overhead, you could see the massive crowd on hand. Well over 100,000 people here for a 3-day total in this inaugural running of the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. 56 laps led now in the books for Bruno Junqueira. That's a career high for the Brazilian driver. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Bob Varsha mentioned earlier on about a press conference that the kart president and CEO held this morning at 10:30. He is with us now. Chris, quite a significant announcement this morning about teams that will join us next year.
Well, yes, Derek. What we told the media today was that we will definitely have 18 race cars next year and maybe have 21. We're in that number. Several of our owners were present today in support of the announcement. Mr. Forsyth, Mr. Patrick, Mr. Walker, Mr. Rahul's team was represented. Mr. Anderson from the Fernandez team, all emphatically stating that, you know, this is the series, this is where you are. And we pointed out to the media that it's very unusual for people to be doing this on September the 1st, but as you know, there's some movement inside our series with a couple of major teams and engine manufacturers moving, and for whatever reason they seem to want to keep the pot boiling. So we basically said, you know, we're going to manage our business, others are not going to manage it for us, and this is where we are, and stand by, there'll be more announcements.
Good, thank you, Chris. And also Carl Haas was at that announcement also, but another one of the pieces of Chris Pook's long-term plan beginning to fall into place here.
Thanks, Derek. Oriol Servia makes his 2nd stop. Servia, one of 3 drivers who has been mathematically eliminated from championship contention. The other 2, Townsend Bell, who's not racing this weekend, and Mario Dominguez, who currently runs 15th, 1 lap down. Servia's done a great job in that car for Patrick Racing this year. Never seems to put a wheel wrong, and he is very quick.
still looking for a result, though, to match the kind of performance that they've had.
Scott Pruitt has more on him.
Here we're coming in. Actually, right down to Jimmy Vassar's pit, coming in. On the marks. Gonna take fuel. 4 brand new Brickshell tires going on. They decided to come in a little bit early. Got caught up in traffic. He's looking for their strategy, and he's away. No problems. And a quick update for Serbia. No changes to the car. Same thing. They got caught up in traffic a little bit, trying to run in that clean air and get some time made up.
Buy me now. Serbia, buy me now, Jimmy.
Vassar coming back out in the house car.
The track's slick enough with hot tires. Can you imagine what it's like on a new set of cold Bridgestones?
There's the race leader, Junqueira. May be able to get to Jimmy. Tor Takagi there in the Denso cars, now 2 laps down. Michael Andretti and Mario Dominguez 1 lap each. Oriol Servia just a couple of seconds up the road. In fact, you saw the orange and white Visteon car go out of your picture. There he is.
And it is vital for him to stay in front of Junqueira, because if they get a yellow, he'll be able to make up all that distance.
3 laps until Junqueira is expected in. Here's Alex Tagliani with the Players Forsyth team. Jerry Forsyth, the team owner, today committed to at least 2 and perhaps as many as 4 cars in the 2003 Kart FedEx Championship Series. And believe it or not, the rumor that former kart champion and Indy 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve, the Formula One world champion back in '97, may return to kart racing still has legs. Scott Pruitt is there. Oh!
Right here in Adrian Fernandez pit. He's having problems with the car. He had too much tire pressure. They decided to come in early, make that change. 4 brand new Bridgestones going on, and he's off and away.
That was Patrick Carpentier, who moments ago reported gearbox problems. And he's gone straight into the tire wall down there in 5. Local yellow only.
Now this is what those guys are hoping for. It's local right now, but they're hoping it goes full course. The Servias, the Vassars, the Paul Tracy's of the world.
Why, Tony Kanaan has gotten balked a couple of times by cars leaving the pits. One, I believe, was Jimmy Vassar. Now he gets it from Adrian Fernandez. No fault to either driver. That's just where Fernandez came out. And he's defending this position, so he has every right to be there.
Now Fernandez coming in early. If past races are any indication, that is not a great move.
So Carpentier's car being hauled away, so my guess is we will not go full course.
So Scott Dixon's got his head down right now. Shinji Nakano, Christian Fittipaldi, Cristiano D'Amata trying to put some good fast laps in so that after they make their stop, they will all leapfrog past Adrian. Every time someone does it, it causes me to scratch my head. One of the possible explanations is guys on that first stop that were trying to stay still for as little time as possible didn't get enough fuel on board to go all the way to lap 68.
Tony Kanaan heads for the pit stall. Derek Daly's there.
Watching Tony Kanaan's pit stop. Again, he puts on the scrub tires. That's his preference. Watching the fueler or the spring water into the radiators. Away he goes. Calvin.
We're down here in Bruno's pit. We expect him in this lap. We don't expect any changes on the car. And interestingly, we talked about Tony with scrub tires. Bruno has 3 brand new sets of Bridgestone tires for his 3 pit stops. So he prefers the sticker tires as opposed to the scrub tires. We don't expect any other changes. Bruno comes down 50 miles an hour. Let's see if he can hit the marks. These guys just need a good clean stop here. He's a 10-second lead on Adrian.
It's going to be quick. Be ready.
To go wrong. Should be tires. As soon as the tires are on, we expect to get the go. Tires are complete.
Ready, go, 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 go.
Great start for Target Chip Ganassi. Let's go down to Scott.
And problems for Shinji Nakano. They came in, looks like some sort of gearbox problem. They're pushing the car. He's looking for a gear, cannot get it in gear. So he dropped it on the ground, stuck it in gear, and it sounded like there was a pop. Tough luck for Shinji, having a great run today. Guys are pulling the car back. No go. Guys.
Wow, what a brutal turn of events for Shinji Nakano, having the best race of his Champ Car career. So he's going to try to get the car back underway. There's Paul Tracy completing his stop. Tracy is working his way up into the top 10. Whoa!
At some tracks, they have a very firm rule that you can't cross over that line. I've seen everybody putting at least 2 wheels over it, so they obviously are allowing at least that.
Let's take another look at what happened to Patrick Carpentier. Wide line down in 5. Michael Andretti to his left, and oh. They might define that gearbox problem as the gearbox was 2 feet off the ground, attached to the rest of the race car.
Saw him hold his left hand up. He's hurt his wrist a number of times. He broke it a few years back, and you see these guys often when they get into an accident pulling their hands away from the wheel, because when the wheel gets wrenched, sometimes their thumb gets stuck in the spokes.
Big order shuffling on that round of pit stops. Scott Dixon moves up to second behind this man, Bruno Junqueira, who has yet to give up the lead. Working lap 66, 35 laps to go. And he's all kinds of lock up there. Wonder if he damaged that left rear Bridgestone.
You can see, I think, a flat spot on the left front.
Let's check and see if the race leader is all right.
Okay, we're +7 to Dixon. +7 to Dixon.
+7. 7 seconds up to second place, Scott Dixon. Then Adrian Fernandez, another 2 seconds back. Let's go to Scott Pruitt. Shinji Nakano is out.
Tom, let me jump in here for a second. Tom, you guys are having a terrific day with Shinji. Any idea what happened?
Well, I think because of the fact of boiling fuel at these higher altitudes and stuff, we're trying to keep a lot more revs in it on the stops. And I think when you go from neutral back into the higher revs, I think we probably broke the selector on the gear shift lever inside the gearbox. So a mechanical failure today.
Well, a tough day. These guys are having a terrific run. As I said, as you're standing down here, when he put it in gear to go, it sounded like there was a pop. And unfortunately, the end of his day, guys.
And his body language says it all. There's another look at that lockup by the race leader. That was actually the left front that he appeared to have damaged.
And you can see, at least initially, the black spot going around the flat spot. How severely it's flat spotted could be critical.
63.0 seconds last time by, so it hasn't slowed him up much. Calvin Fish.
Well, that's something we've been looking at all weekend long, Bob. When these guys have actually locked the brakes up, it's literally torn these Bridgestone tires to pieces. And it's really kind of strange because of the low grip nature of the racetrack. You'd think they'd be okay. So we certainly talked about this morning whether guys would have a problem if they did flat spot a tire, if they'd be able to continue with the run. Quick update on Patrick Carpentier. He's out of the race. Gearbox issues. He lost second initially, then third. His day is done.
Carpentier and Nakano, the second and third cars out of the race. Amazing that trying to compensate for altitude managed to break the gearbox on a pit stop. Welcome back to Denver. Be sure to join us in 2 weeks for the Rockingham 500 on the oval track at Corby, England. Friday qualifying and a 2-day affair. 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Kart Friday night from a medieval castle nearby at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, with Derek Daly hosting as always. And then the Rockingham 500 itself live here on Speed Channel beginning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday morning, September 14th. There's a look down on the Pepsi Center from our Honda Skycam. Thanks once again to Honda for providing us with this wonderful aerial platform and so many rounds of the Kart FedEx Championship Series this year. We're working round 14 on the streets of Denver, Colorado. Let's get to Scott Pruitt.
Shinji Nakano, huge disappointment. What happened when he went to put it in gear?
Well, I don't know exactly what happened, just you know. After everything done, ready to go, tried to put it into the first gear, there's no gear.
You guys are having such a terrific run all weekend, capping it off with just a superb race going. Obviously hugely disappointed.
Well, no, this weekend, no. I think everybody did a good job, really good job to put everything together. You know, that's a shame. You know, we had such a problem in the race. You know, otherwise I couldn't finish on the podium for sure. So, but that's racing. It happened. So let's hope for the next one.
Tough luck. Yeah, as we say in racing, you know, the highs are high and the lows are low. Calvin.
Who's overseeing Kenny Breck's car, Mike Cullen. I said, what is the strategy? Did you have a problem with the car for the early start? He said, no, quite the reverse. We had a very fast race car. We felt we were being held up, so we switched strategies, brought Kenny in. The problem was we then got stuck behind Michael Andretti, who was running about 2 seconds off our pace for 5 or 6 laps. So it's really bit them, and they're really not sure that worked out for them. So Kenny's out there battling away. They felt when the pit stops cycled through, they should have been right behind Fernandez, but that didn't quite work out for them. Also on Bruno Junqueira, Kenny's teammate, we saw that lockup under braking. Bill Pappas, his engineer, said no problems whatsoever. Bruno has not reported a vibration or any downturn in the car's handling.
All right, thanks, Calvin. During that last pit sequence, Paul Tracy picked up 4 places. Michel Jourdain Jr. 2, 1 each for Scott Dixon, Cristiano D'Amata, and Christian Fittipaldi, who you're watching. Running order across the top of your screen. Derek Daly.
Bob, Christian Fittipaldi dodged a bullet on that last pit stop. The car fell off the jack without the left front on it. Put it back up again. About 12 laps before that, he reported his brake pedal beginning to go long. But the thing they're most concerned about is the Toyota engine has been running too hot. I asked Craig Hampson, I said, what do you define as too hot? He looked at the Toyota engineer who said, way too hot.
Hot is too hot. Looking at Cristiano D'Amata running 6th. Michael Andretti running behind him. Andretti is a lap down in 14th place. Now the pit window to make your final stop is open. And the top 10 cars can all make their final stop on virtually any lap now and run green to the finish. There's Paul Tracy, currently 11th. He has made 3 stops, and he's got another one coming by lap 96 of 100. There's Michel Jourdain Jr. in the Gigante car. See those huge cuts out of the side pod to allow the radiators to get air through. Scott Pruitt.
I'm in Michel Jourdain's pit as we speak. Just got done talking to the guys. I said, how things going? He said, great. I said, how the brakes? He said, great. How's everything cool? And he said, great. So Steady Eddie out there, you know, they're just clicking them off one at a time. He's doing the right thing, being heads up, being smart. So far, so good. They're having a great day. Bob?
Michel Jourdain Jr. working on his 14th consecutive points-paying finish. The only driver to score in every race this year has already broken the team boss Bobby Rahall's personal record of 11 in a row. The series record is 23, held by Al Unser Sr. There's Bruno Junqueira. The gap back to second place, Scott Dixon. 8.5 seconds as Target Chip Ganassi Racing runs 1-2 with their 3rd car, Kenny Breck, back in 6th. We'll be back with more live from Denver in a moment. Back in Denver, there is Tony Kanaan running 7th. Derek Daly has more on him.
Tony Kanaan of the Pioneer car quietly doing a good job here. Ironically, just a couple of laps after Morris Nunn got on the radio and told him to lay off the brakes as much as he can, Tony went out and set fastest lap of the race. Bodes well for him for the rest of this event.
Well, Morris is going to have to be careful what he tells Tony. During practice, Tony had a crash. He said, I was doing lap after lap, getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Then Morris came on and said, be sure you don't make a mistake. Bang, crash. Kenny Breck is in. Calvin Fish.
Kenny brings it in on a different strategy to the other front runners. He's currently running 6, about 7 seconds behind Cristiano D'Amata. This should be... slides in, nearly collects the crew there. And look at that immediate flat spot that we see even on the pit lane when he locked the tires up there on the left front. Team has regrouped. He didn't get too close to the wall. Tire change was done. He's back underway. That was nearly disaster there for Kenny Breck.
Congratulations to the Ganassi crew for keeping their heads in that situation. That could have been a real mess. Let's take another look at it. And you can clearly see the flat spot left front. The fueler rocking back and forth to time his plunge at the nozzle.
That cost him a little bit of time before he got the wheel on the gun. Now, talking about the flat spots, obviously that one comes off so it doesn't affect him. But if you get a flat spot when you go out on cold tires like Bruno did, the tendency is that the tire wants to again lock when it gets to that flat spot. So it tends to get worse and worse.
High overhead, looking down at Bruno Junqueira in the mile-wide turn. Destined to become a trademark here. There's Alex Tagliani in the remaining players' Forsyth car. It's Kenny Brack going by.
When Kenny was coming out of the pits, you saw Paul Tracy right on Oriol Servia. He had just gotten past Jimmy Vasser, and Tracy immediately closed a 3-second gap to Servia. So Tracy has a very quick car. Unfortunately, the options for getting him on a clear piece of track are pretty much nil. So he might be able to make some spots on his stop. The rest he's going to have to do on his own.
Gap from Junqueira to his teammate Scott Dixon in second remains at about 8.8 seconds. And Dixon is 13 seconds clear of Adrian Fernandez in third. There is Oriol Servia, the colors of the provincial Catalonian flag on his helmet. It's nice that they also match the colors of the nation of Spain. Scott Pruitt.
A quick update on Oriol and the Vision team. He's complaining some sort of problem shifting, mainly second gear. He's fighting it. They aren't sure what's going on. They're telling him just to be careful with it right now. Hopefully they can make it to the end of the race, guys.
He's got Paul Tracy coming up in a hurry from behind. 20 laps to go. See if Tracy gets him on the run down to turn 5. Gonna have to get closer. Glad to have you with us live here on Speed Channel on this Labor Day weekend. It's the Shell Grand Prix of Denver, round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series. I'm Bob Varsha with Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, Derek Daly, and Calvin Fisher in the pit lane. There's the view from high above Denver. We're watching Oriol Servia limping around, trying to keep Paul Tracy behind him, running 8th and 9th. Tony Kanaan runs 6th. There's Servia and Tracy, 8th and 9th. Kenny Brack has just made his final stop. He's trying to work his way forward. The top 8 cars still have to make their third and final stop with less than 20 laps to go. Bruno Junqueira has led from pole, looking for a win. Third pole of the season for the Brazilian, not counting the Indianapolis 500, where he was also quick starter. There is Scott Dixon running second.
He has taken a couple seconds out of Bruno's lead since getting around Fernandez.
New Coors Light colors on the Target Chip Ganassi racing car for the weekend. Accustomed to seeing those on Sterling Marlin's NASCAR Winston Cup Dodge, which is also co-owned by Chip Ganassi. One of the greatest entrepreneurs in motorsports, with teams in 3 different series. There's Adrian Fernandez running third behind Dixon and losing ground. Paul Newman looking on. We'll be back. Speed Channel's live coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series Shell Grand Prix of Denver is being brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling. And by FedEx, proud sponsor of the FedEx Championship Series. Another beautiful look from high over the Pepsi Center in downtown Denver, Colorado, where we now have 16 laps to go. Round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. On board with Adrian Fernandez running third, 24 seconds behind race leader Bruno Junqueira. We expect him in the pit shortly.
We'll be watching all these top probably 7 guys. Remember, Adrian stopped before the maximum last time, and you saw it hurt him. Every time this year someone stops before the guy behind them stops, they lose that position. So why do they do it? They do it because they're trying to get going as quick as possible and not taking on enough fuel to go the full 32 laps in this case. So watch, anybody who pits before the maximum runs a big risk of losing spots to guys behind them. Bruno, as I said, it looks like they did take the luxury of taking a real full load of fuel so that they could optimize those windows and not get caught out like that.
Bruno trying to become the first man to win from pole since that man you just saw, Cristiano Ronaldo, did it on the streets of Toronto, Canada, back on July 7th.
There goes Adrian into the pits. You also heard Tom Anderson talking about keeping the revs up so the fuel doesn't boil. Scott, you're there.
I'm right on top of it.
Pump the clutch. Keep the revs up. Keep the revs up.
They had a long talk with him, especially with Tom Anderson, about what happened with Sinji. They're going to be careful getting him out of here. 7.9 seconds. Pretty standard pit stop, just a small tire pressure change. That was all they made.
Now the heat affects everything.
Don Halliday on the radio. Michel Jourdain Jr. completes his final stop. Christian Fittipaldi moves up to third. That makes Cristiano D'Amata fourth. Tony Kanaan fifth.
We've talked about the heat in terms of the brakes and the engines. Where the heat gets even worse is at a stop. You get what's called heat soak. And it can boil the fuel in the fuel lines. It can boil the fluid in the slave cylinder for the clutch, which is why he was telling him to pump up the clutch before he engaged the gear.
This is a battle for position. Fittipaldi third, D'Amata fourth. Meanwhile, up front, Bruno Junqueira is being closed in on by Scott Dixon, who is now just under 6 seconds behind his teammate, the race leader.
We knew he was being held up. We didn't know by how much. That last lap, he closed a half a second on Junqueira.
Fittipaldi running almost exactly the same lap as Scott Dixon.
Bruno being able to go all the way to 96 is going to be a big boost in that regard. If Dixon had to trade fuel for track position, he might have to come in before Bruno.
Oriol Servia's in. Scott Pruitt.
Servia's in. 4 sticker Bridgestone tires going on the car. Now they've told him to use third gear in pit lane, not second. Let's take care of second gear. 7.9 seconds. Real good stop for the Vision team. Currently running 7th.
And they got a big extra push to help their man get back out there in that higher gear. Servia started 13th. He's up to 7th, as Scott mentioned, or he was before he pitted. Paul Tracy has made up 6 positions. Tracy runs 7th at the moment. There's Kenny Brack. Remember, he pitted out of sequence. Currently shown in 8th. His last lap was quicker than the lap that put Bruno Junqueira on pole. 61.648 seconds. Pretty typical of a road circuit like this, a street circuit I should say though, to pick up speed as the rubber builds up and the race goes on.
Mike Hull said they had a fast car, but what foiled them was getting caught behind Michael Andretti, and now it looks like he's caught behind Paul. He was pulling the left as he went out of frame there.
Oh! Mario Dominguez on the right, Tora Takagi on the left. That's down in turn 6.
Dominguez has stalled it, so we might get that yellow.
Oh, just as Scott Dixon comes in.
Fuel. Fuel is flowing, wheels are coming off, they're going back on.
Scott Dixon is in, and this is really trying to take advantage of the fact that Bruno Junqueira is held up in traffic. 7-second stop for the Core Silver Bullet. They're trying to take advantage of Bruno's traffic situation.
But we've got a yellow flag, full course caution.
And the car just fell off the jack.
Yeah, Christian's car fell off the jack again. This happened the last time.
Go.
This was even worse because the air hose came right out of the back and shot backwards.
Oh, the crew is furious.
It's obviously some sort of a problem with the air coupling where they push it on. It's not, the sleeve is not snapping back. Or it is snapping back and it's not holding. Here comes Bruno.
Shot in, you got a straight shot in.
Calvin Fish is there.
Bruno Junqueira comes down. Be interested to see how this plays out.
Be quick. Tires
how it situates with locks up slightly there. Nothing like Kenny Brack, so it should be a good clean start for these boys.
Okay.
As you can see, another new set of Bridgestone tires. Well delayed there. He's underway. 8 second stop for Bruno Junqueira.
And you heard Chip Ganassi on the radio when he came in. 4 gallons of fuel.
Timmy, clear approach. Nice clean stop, guys.
Spent 4 seconds of fuel, not 4 gallons. He's got too far to go. Cristiano D'Amata is in. The Newman Haas crew goes to work. Carefully choreographed. No wasted motion.
Go.
And the points leader is on his way.
Up as quick as you can now.
There is Dixon. Running behind Alex Tagliani. Take another look at what happened to Christian Fittipaldi on that stop.
Watch at the back. This is where you see the hose go blowing off the back. The car falls down on its under tray. The crewman grabs it and plugs it back in. So it had been there for a while before it popped off.
That position was moved from the side of the car to the back for safety reasons.
Safety wanting to get the guy out from in front of the rear wheel.
From between the wheels, right. Tora Takagi's car is lifted out of the way by the Simple Green safety crew. Paul Tracy has pitted. That final stop for Tracy. He'll come back out. And we'll get the green shortly with 10 laps to go here in the Grand Prix of Denver. Welcome back to Denver. Tonight here on Speed Channel, join John Roberts on NASCAR Victory Lane with all the news and highlights from the Southern 500 tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Speed Channel. Big crowd enjoying a beautiful Labor Day weekend here in Denver. We are under a full course caution after a collision between Tora Takagi and Mario Dominguez. Here's a look. Ooh. Inevitably, on open-wheeled cars, when rubber meets rubber, somebody is going to elevate. In this case, Tora Takagi.
He was a good ways alongside. I don't think I've seen a pass there all weekend, but he was a good ways alongside.
Let's get to Derek Daly.
Just a quick update on Paul Tracy. Barry Green was somewhat concerned that perhaps the pace car picked up somebody that was a wrong car. When they looked at it, they're not so sure it cost Paul Tracy any time because the cars he was concerned about had pitted out of sequence anyway. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, Double D.
I think so. I was wondering about that, but we didn't have a good enough picture to figure it out.
Bruno Junqueira and Scott Dixon, the teammates from Target Chip Ganassi Racing, run 1-2, but the lapped car of Alex Tagliani is between them on track right now. Calvin Fish.
Well, I think the key is, Bob, that Scott Dixon is one of the few guys in this field who has the same pace as Bruno Junqueira, and now they're very close together on track, so it'll be a sprint to the finish, certainly. Maybe Chip Ganassi will bring in team orders. Bruno's still in the championship hunt. I'd like to point out that Cristiano D'Amato has put together a great championship point-scoring run here this afternoon. Hasn't had a fast car, didn't take any chances. Now he looks like he may be on the podium at the end of the day. Scott Pruitt, your thoughts?
The other interesting thing is when you guys are making pit stop, you're seeing a lot of steam coming out of the radiators. Well, actually, the teams are actually forcing water into the radiators to try and cool them down. Anything they can do to bring down the temperature on a pit stop. This is the first time we've ever seen that. Another quick note for the Visteon team. They told Oriole, don't use second gear. Take care of it.
All right, thanks, guys. Let's take another look in real time from Tora Takagi's onboard camera. That is an e-ticket ride right there. We are going green next time by with 7 laps remaining of this 1.64 mile 9-turn circuit in Denver, Colorado. There's Paul Tracy, currently shown in 8th. How about Cristiano D'Amato? Hasn't been particularly quick all weekend, but now he's in 3rd.
That's the payoff. Remember I said if Adrian stops early, he runs the risk of losing the positions to the guys behind him, and that's exactly what happened with Cristiano.
Fernandez is 4th. Christian Fittipaldi 5th. Despite that miscue on the pit stop, Tony Kanaan in line for another good finish in 6th place.
Of the field. You're in control.
Chip Ganassi telling Junqueira that he is the man.
You shouldn't have the trouble with buildup because these tires didn't get hot and then cool down. These are tires that are coming up to temp from the pit stop. New tires that are on.
Green.
Swintal waves the flag. Let's see if Alex Tagliani gets out of Scott Dixon's way.
Look how gingerly they have to approach turn 1.
On board with Fernandez.
God, look at that short shift. It's like they're still on a pace lap.
Steering with one hand on these incredibly bumpy streets. Slight lift there in the kink for Fernandez. We haven't seen a lot of that.
Yeah, and cold tires.
Yeah, exactly. Tony Kanaan battling with Christian Fittipaldi. That's for 5th place. Kenny Brack behind wants a piece of that fight as well. On board with Brack. Laps to go. Scott Pruitt has more on Adrian Fernandez in 4th.
I just went up to his engineer, Don Halliday, and said, Don, you have any problems? He said, no, actually everything's good. We can make it to the end. Then Tom Anderson turned around and said, yeah, we got 3 problems. 3 Toyotas in front of us.
Fernandez, of course, Honda powered. Scott Dixon has gotten by. In fact, he's leading a train of cars past the lap machine of Alex Tagliani. Tony Kanaan looked on the outside of Tagliani, then decided better of it as he continues to run right on the gearbox of Christian Fittipaldi. Five to go. Next time under the flag stand. Here's a good look at Kenny Brack. He needs a good finish, and he's in position for one.
Now that Dixon's gotten around, he's pulled about a half a second back from Bruno. Dixon has been impressive this weekend. He's been really, really smooth, not gone down an escape road, not spun out. Didn't quite get the lap he wanted in qualifying. He took the blame for that. If I'm not mistaken, not one of us picked Bruno Junqueira for the win in our pre-race predictions.
Thanks for bringing that up. Good look at Dixon, the youngest winner of a kart FedEx Championship Series race, 2001, on the oval at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Driving for Bruce McCall, the now defunct Pac West Racing Team. Parents are here from New Zealand this weekend to watch their boy in action, and he is closing up on the race leader. Target Chip Ganassi Racing is going to have a decision to make. 3 laps to go. Next time by as the teammates draw away from the field. Cristiano D'Amata in 3rd is almost 5 seconds back.
I would not want to be the guy who relays the message to Scott Dixon, hey, we need you to hold station. He's won 1 Champ Car race in his career. These opportunities don't come along very often. Then again, Chip Ganassi's never really worried too much what people think about his orders. He keeps his eye on the ball, and right now that's the championship for Bruno Junqueira.
Still closer is Scott Dixon. Junqueira came into the weekend tied for 3rd in the championship with Patrick Carpentier, but the pole point took him to 103 on the season. Sole possession of 3rd place. He will move into 2nd past Dario Franchitti, who was the first car out of this race. Just a half second between them. If Dixon's been told not to pass Junqueira, he's certainly going to make it look like a fight.
Well, and you might be able to affect the same thing. If you put some heat on, Bruno will be saying, hey, I thought you told him to slow down. He can put the heat on, maybe force him into a mistake without actually doing anything. He could say to Chip, hey, I didn't do anything.
Crowd coming to its feet here in Denver, watching this battle of teammates. Look at him in the grandstands on the backstretch, running down to turn 6. There's D'Amata in the distance. He's out of it. It is down to these 2.
Now, Bruno's kind of been in cruise mode. He's been running some pretty good lap times, but he hasn't had to really push the limit. So now you have to turn that on and find that extra half a tenth braking for turn 1. All of a sudden, it's a lot tougher to do. Dixon has been on a clear track for about the last 20-some laps.
2 laps to go, lock up for Junqueira down in 1. You can hear the tire squeal. Keep in mind that Kurzgar in 2nd, that's the home sponsor. So a big chunk of this Colorado crowd is going to be cheering for Scott Dixon and his familiar brand. And you know Junqueira's driving his mirrors now. Junqueira a little bit deeper on the brakes that time in 5. So what do you do if you're Scott Dixon? You've got to pick your spot. You haven't got many shots at this.
I think you do just what you're doing. Try to keep the heat on, and maybe you don't have to make a move. It's going to be hard to get by an equal car here without taking an insane amount of risk, which would be unacceptable to Chip.
Chip Ganassi looks on. Calvin Fish.
Chip, you have a decision to make. He's on the radio right now. We'll try and hang in there with him. Chip, you have a decision to make. Bruno's making a run at the championship. A young man right behind him who wants his first win of the year.
Well, you know, Calvin, historically we've had no team orders. That's the way it's going to stay today, I guess.
We appreciate it.
It's almost too late for team orders now.
God bless Chip Ganassi.
Less than a lap to go. Junqueira and Dixon. And Bruno appears to be able to pull away just a little bit. Reaching deep, looking for his second win of the year. He won on the oval at Motegi with a dominant performance after Paul Tracy dropped out of that race with mechanical problems. If he can hold on, it'll be his third career win, and the crowd is cheering. Oh, there's Dixon. He's right there. Here's the final corner. It's going to be a drag race, nose to tail. 100 yards to go. Checkered flags wave, and Bruno Junqueira holds on.
You led every lap.
Leading from flag to flag in a 1-2 finish for that man, Chip Ganassi. Bruno, the 6th driver to win from pole this season. And listen to that crowd. Somebody needs to tell those guys the race is over. This may be the fastest victory lap in history.
Chip's ex-wife, Kara.
Now they slow down and take the opportunity to savor it. Cristiano Namada unofficially finishes third, 8.1 seconds back, followed by Adrian Fernandez, Christian Fittipaldi, Tony Kanaan, who wasn't able to get the better of his Brazilian countryman after that long harangue. Kenny Brack finishes 7th, making it 3 cars in the top 10 for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Paul Tracy finishes 8th, Michel Jourdain Jr. 9th, ahead of his Team Rahal teammate in the Shell car, Jimmy Vasser. Oriol Servia, the last car on the lead lap, in 11th. Alex Tagliani and Michael Andretti finish 1 lap down in 12th and 13th. Mario Dominguez in 14th. 3 laps behind after that tangle with Toru Takagi that knocked the Japanese driver out of the race. Here's a look at the ownership, the brain trust, and the muscle from Target Ganassi Racing that came through with a 1-2-7 finish on the first running of the Shell Grand Prix of Denver here in the Rocky Mountains. Great battle right to the flag. No donuts there, Bruno. Billy Camphausen trying desperately to get Bruno to stop, or at least slow down. Yeah, he cuts the engine. They'll push him into victory lane. Let's enjoy the moment with Bruno Junqueira when his team arrives.
Billy, get down. Billy, get down. Yeah. Gavin,
watch out, back. Watch out, look over here.
Derek Daly is there.
I just love to see these moments of celebration. Gavin Hamilton right here beside him. Bruno,
take the helmet off.
Grab that helmet off just as soon as you can, because we want to see you and hear from you. I'm sure Chip Ganassi is going to be here in just a second. Bruno, what a display on a racetrack that is so difficult. That was a great display.
Man, I'm so proud of the team, all the work that we did on the weekend. Get the pole, lead whole laps of the race, all 100 laps. Really tough on the yellow in the end. Get a lot of marbles on the track, and I just had to hold Scott. Really great job for Team Target.
Now, you were under severe pressure from Scott Dixon. He took a great run at you. Did you know there were no team orders? You knew it was a fight between yourself and your teammate?
I know in kart there is no team order. There is no this thing, and he pushed. I tried to keep him under control, and I'm really happy to win this race.
Bruno, 2 wins this season. He won on the oval earlier. Now he wins on the streets of Denver. Gives him 3 career victories.
And I mentioned earlier, Derek, he is the 6th driver. Actually, it's the 6th time this year that a driver has won from pole. Junqueira has done it twice, Cristiano D'Amata 3 times, and Patrick Carpentier once at Mid-Ohio 4 weeks ago, beginning this string of 4 Kart FedEx Championship Series races in as many weekends. Now let's hear from the runner-up with Scott.
Well, Scott Dixon down here in the Coors Silverbill, a great run in front of their homeboys. It's their hometown here in Denver. New color scheme seemed to play dividends today. What a run. Now, would it have been any different, Scott, if it hadn't been your teammate in front?
Yeah. There were a few words on the last few laps that, you know, we had to take it careful and no dives or anything like that. You know, I think we had the car to win.
Were there team orders, or did they just say, if you're going to make a move, be careful?
No, there was sort of going to be no moves, I don't think, you know. On this circuit, I think if you got offline anyway, it was going to end in tears. But, you know, I think we had the car, Silverbill car all day, could have won. You know, we got stuck behind Adrian forever, and he was just going so slow. It was I don't know.
Did that cost you the race? Adrian had some braking problems. That's why he dropped off the pace a little bit. You decided to pit a little bit differently and came out and saw that yellow out there. Maybe things were going to play your way, but you still came out second behind Bruno.
Yeah, I think Bruno just, you know, drove an excellent race. They got a good jump at the start, and, you know, we had a good start too, but, you know, it was his day, and lucky enough.
Scott, superb job. Let's go over to Scott Pruitt with a 3rd place finisher.
Cristiano, championship. I know that was your focus. Didn't qualify as good as you'd like, but what a great weekend.
Yeah, it ended up very good. We started the weekend well. I don't know where we made a mistake. We lost performance from Friday to Saturday. We never could get it back. It was difficult qualifying. The race was very difficult. I was worried just about to finish this race in a way that everybody seen how many mistakes everybody was doing on the practice session. So I was very worried, just keeping my nose clean on the race. My car was actually getting was running better than I expected. Everybody that short field ahead of us, I was still able, even though I was running a little heavier, I was still able to keep the pace with them. So when they eventually come into the pits, I was able to get them Christian and Fernandez, and that last stop was perfect for us today.
Well, terrific job. They whistle him off to go around the racetrack, and with the top 3 off the podium. Very valuable championship points, more in the bag. Guys.
All right, thanks very much, Scott. Paul Newman, co-owner of Cristiano D'Amata's car, looking on as his man heads for the podium. Here's a look at the standings with 14 rounds complete. The margin is D'Amata 52 over new 2nd place man Junqueira. There's a look down on Victory Lane outside the Pepsi Center from our Honda Skycam. Once again, our thanks to Honda for providing us with the aircraft to bring you these beautiful pictures here at the Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Have a look at the full field results. Best finish of the season for 2nd place man Scott Dixon behind race winner Bruno Junqueira. Cristiano D'Amata just keeps adding championship points. He can finish 3rd or better in the remaining 5 races and clinch the 2002 championship. But we're a long way from there. Adrian Fernandez, a good run in 4th. Christian Fittipaldi in 5th. Oriol Servia comes home 11th, last car on the lead lap. Dario Franchitti bitterly disappointed to be the first man out of the race after coming into this weekend in 2nd place in the championship. We'll take another break and be back for more of the post-race festivities as our top 3 continue their lap of honor. Stay with us. Welcome back to Denver. This Toyota Spotlight brings you the highlights of today's Shell Grand Prix of Denver. It started with Bruno Junqueira on pole. Scott Dixon slipped past Shinji Nakano for 3rd place behind Adrian Fernandez. On lap 1, Oriol Servia, Dario Franchitti, and Paul Tracy came together. Tracy appeared to get the worst of it, but it was Franchitti, 2nd in the championship coming in, who was done for the day. Another look from on board Tracy's car in flight. Adrian Fernandez and Scott Dixon engaged in a tire-smoking battle for a long time. The same up front for Bruno Junqueira and Mario Dominguez, driving team owner Chip Ganassi. into a conniption with the race officials over blocking. Michael Andretti and Patrick Carpentier came together, knocking another high player in the points out of the running. For Shinji Nakano, the best race of his Champ Car career, fell victim to a broken gearbox while trying to keep the revs up at high altitude. Different sort of problem for Christian Fittipaldi. The arrows popped out, the car came off the jacks. Fortunately, no one had their fingers or toes under the car. Fittipaldi would come back to finish 5th. Another coming together between Dominguez and Tora Takagi. The Mexican rookie was able to continue. The Japanese driver was done, and this one could have been a lot more serious. Bruno Junqueira led every lap from the green flag. In the closing moments, Dixon got close, but not close enough. For Chip Ganassi and Target Ganassi Racing, a 1-2 finish with their third car, Kenny Brack, finishing 7th. Let's get to Calvin Fish with Paul Tracy.
Paul, I know you're very disappointed. Talk us through what happened there down in turn 5 on the first lap.
I just committed to the inside and I locked the inside brake and that was it. I couldn't stop and I just ran right over Dario. I couldn't avoid hitting him because I just couldn't stop the car, and it was
this weekend we've seen some of the best drivers in the world, Paul, go out literally on the second, third corner and go down the escape routes and spin into the tire barriers. Tell us, in all of your experience in motor racing, how slick was this racetrack?
Well, it was slick, but nobody else out there hit their teammates, so I feel terrible for Dario. I mean, I just drove the whole race with a broken heart, and I don't even know what to say to him.
As you can tell from Paul's voice, he's very disappointed. He's going to go and see Dario here shortly. Dario's still at the racetrack. Big disappointing day for Team Cool Green. Let's go down to Derek with Christian Fittipaldi.
Christian, we followed your story all day long. We saw the car fall off the jacks. Did that frustration, affect your performance? And how many places do you think it cost you?
Probably cost me 2 places. Like Fernandez held Dixon and the rest of the guys up in the beginning of the race. Probably we lost a lot to Bruno there. I think I had a pretty decent car the whole weekend. And if I was behind Bruno and Dixon, we definitely could have challenged them a little bit more, but we had 2 slow pit stops. That obviously didn't help us a bit. I guess we have to turn the page and go on to the next race.
That's exactly. Thank you, Christian. I asked Christian earlier, was it physically more difficult? He said no, mentally more difficult to maintain the discipline. We'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to Denver, Colorado. Podium ceremonies going on. Be sure to join Speed Channel Monday night for NASCAR Inside Winston Cup Racing with the story of the Southern 500 from Darlington. It's coming your way Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And get this, as we speak, Sterling Marlin is leading the Southern 500, so this could be a very big day for car owner Chip Ganassi, whose drivers have finished 1-2-7 in today's Shell Grand Prix of Denver. Let's go to Scott Pruitt with Adrian Fernandez.
I'm sitting here with the wore-out Adrian Fernandez. Adrian, certainly a good solid run. Look, he had a little bit of problem there in the second stint.
Yeah, we were starting having some problems with the brakes, and the pedals start getting low, and I couldn't attack the corner as I was at the beginning. But Bruno, had everybody covered. I got to thank Honda and Bridgestone for giving me great tire for the race, and special difficult conditions to be able to last the whole race. I take my hat for Honda.
Now physically, let's take a look at his hand right here. Big old blister. Physically, how you doing? I know every week you get better and better. How about today with all the bumps and jumps and all this physically?
It was the most difficult race for me of the year, especially because I'm not in the shape that I should be because of the accident. I haven't been able to work out the way I normally work out, but very happy to be able to finish the race, not making mistakes. And like I said, the pit strategy didn't work for us, but it is how it goes. The Mara passed us in the yellow flag, and that was it. But good results. Sorry for Shinji. He was running fantastic on the race, 3rd place, and then he had a problem with the shifting. So sorry for Shinji, but hopefully, from now on we can start challenge for the points.
Well, terrific job today. Now, don't remember, it's not a weekend off or a week off for all the teams and crews. They got to get everything turned around right now for an oval to head to England this weekend. Guys?
That's right, Scott. That pretty much makes it 5 consecutive weekends of work for the teams, and then the race in Rockingham, 6 straight weekends for these teams. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more of the post-race festivities here in Denver, Colorado. Don't go away. Welcome back to Denver, Colorado. Champagne everywhere for Bruno Junqueira, second victory of the year, both of them from pole, though his margin over his teammate, Scott Dixon, 0.282 seconds. That's the closest finish of the season thus far. Let's get to Calvin Fish with Tony Kanaan.
Tony Kanaan finishing 6th today, 4th time in 5 races. On a good run here, Tony. But brakes really held your progress up a little bit at the end. You had a very fast race car handling-wise there.
Yeah, definitely, Calvi. I think what happens is we have a knockback that we call knockback. The rotors oscillate a little bit and the pads get away from the rotors. I mean, it's normal, and especially in a track like this that we use a lot of brakes. I was expecting to have this issue. Definitely, I was trying too hard to pass Christian, but because of the brake problems, I didn't want to risk everything.
We saw that in turn 5. You made a move. It looked like the outside actually gone down there after the restart.
Yeah, I didn't want to try to the inside because of my brake. My pedal was going down. I didn't want to risk to take myself and him off. So I said, let's go to the outside. And at least if something happens, it only happens to me. And I know Christian, and he's very clean. He left me the room. I went side by side, but I couldn't do it. So it was an exciting race, really fun. So I hope we can do better next time.
All right, Tony, good decision, good race today. Let's get down to Scott Pruitt.
I'm here with Visteon driver Oriol Surya. Oriol, looks like he had a good, solid race going, but unfortunately had something go wrong in the gearbox.
Yeah, I mean, the bad thing was already starting 13. We need to start a lot more towards the front, you know, that's the key. We figured it took us a little bit to figure out the car, but by the warm-up the car was great, and in the race the car was great. I mean, we started at the back, and I was able to pass Jimmy and Tagliani. It wasn't easy, but you know, then I was just moving forward. We're not going to finish on the podium today. I mean, the Visteon car was not going to be up there today, but we're moving forward, so it was a good race. Unfortunately, 27 laps to the end, I lost second gear, and all the corners in this track are second gear corners, so in third gear wasn't really easy. But when I got used to it, actually, the Toyota was pulling very well from low revs, and I did very close to my fastest lap on third gear also. So you know, at the end wasn't that bad.
Well, good solid run for Oriol today. Looking for more for the rest of the year, guys.
All right, thanks very much, guys. There is Bruno Junqueira, trophy on high. The last 1-2 finish for Target Chip Ganassi Racing 2 years ago in Houston. Jimmy Vasser over Juan Montoya. We'll be back. Back live in Denver, Colorado, where round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series is now complete. The Shell Grand Prix of Denver is in the books. We have a couple of more brand new circuits coming up in Miami, Florida and Mexico City, Mexico. To teach you a little bit about how these teams prepare, here's Scott Pruitt in this Toyota Spotlight.
It's pretty easy to understand a mechanic's job, putting together the race car, bolting the stuff on the car, but what about the engineers? That's the difficult part, especially understanding simulation, running the track on the computer before you actually get to the track. When you do that, what is it that you need to understand? What are you looking for?
Well, we're trying to get the basics down first. So coming to a new track, we want to have some idea how it's to be geared, what sort of downforce levels we should run, therefore what sort of speeds we're going to reach, what sort of special problems, brake cooling and engine cooling, we're going to encounter. And Denver is a perfect example where all of those things come very much into play. From a survey, with special software, we generate a driver's line, and from that, normally, if we just choose now a basic grip level, we've never been here before, that would be sufficient to start. But Denver has an additional twist in that it has 17% roughly less air density than, let's say, a place near sea level. That affects us immensely here because it's, say, 17% less downforce and less drag. It's 17% less air density coming through to cool the engine and also the brakes. So that has to be taken into account, and that actually affects the basic speeds that we preview in the simulation before we get here.
As you can tell, that was shot a few days ago when I had a little bit more hair on my face. Standing here with Michel Jourdain. Michel, we should call you Steady Eddie. Points in every race this year.
Yeah, that's good, you know, that we keep finishing races. That talks very good about everybody in Team Recall, you know. Mexicantov is people crew is doing a great job. Because I wish the last couple of races we could have finished a little better, you know. I think today we had a pretty good car. I don't know if we overreacted a little bit to the cooling and all that, but you know, we finished. It's one of those races that everybody thinks nobody's gonna finish. Everybody goes out just to finish, and everybody finished, you know. So we probably went a little bit too conservative. I don't know, but at least we finished. We got some points, and there's the last 5 races coming, and hopefully we can do better.
Well, good run today. And at times today, Michel was turning some of the fastest laps on the racetrack. Guys?
14 scoring finishes and counting. Now within 9 of the series record held by Al Unser Sr. We'll take a break and be back to Denver in a moment. Speed Channel's live coverage of the Kart FedEx Championship Series Shell Grand Prix of Denver is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsor of the Kart FedEx Championship Series, and by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. Round 14 of the season is now in the books. Beautiful summer afternoon on Labor Day weekend. Shadows growing long here in Denver, Colorado. Let's get final thoughts from our announced team, beginning in the pit lane with Calvin Fish.
Bob, it's been quite remarkable. Whenever anyone has second place in points, they seem to struggle in that next race weekend. Same thing happened with Dario today, got attacked by his teammate, and now we see another flip-flop in the points. It'll be Bruno Junqueira running in second place. Let's see what happens in Rockingham at the next race. Scott Pruitt.
Cristiano came here and did exactly what he had to do. Get those valuable points for the championship. That guy is going to be tough to beat. Not to say that it's done, but he's got things pretty well in hand. Derek?
From what I saw all weekend, I was very concerned of the lack of discipline potentially from these drivers. However, as the race unfolded, I saw phenomenal discipline and a deft touch from everybody except that mistake by Paul Tracy. And as you can see, the Brazilian flags wave here, but it was a great day for Ganassi and a 1-2 with sheer discipline.
Well, thanks very much, gentlemen. As you can see, lots of Brazilian fans in the Kart FedEx Championship Series everywhere we go. Today they have Bruno Junqueira to cheer for, and countryman Cristiano D'Amata, Junqueira's boyhood friend and karting rival, who is still the leader in the championship. Scott Dixon makes it a 1-2 for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Adrian Fernandez came home 4th. Christian Fittipaldi 5th. Tony Kanaan in 6th. Tommy Kendall, you mentioned it earlier. None of us had the foresight to pick Bruno Junqueira to win this race. All he did was dominate it from flag to flag.
Well, I talked about the uncertainty. I talked about how this was kind of like a dysfunctional Thanksgiving dinner. You had the two brothers, Dario and PT, going at it, but it did have a happy ending. No, Bruno is not reconciling with his ex-wife slash sister, but he led every lap and really pumped up his value on the driver market.
You write soap operas in your spare time, buddy? Don't forget, in 2 weeks, we'll be in Corby, England for an oval track race, the Rockingham 500, a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday. Single car qualifying comes your way Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Kart Friday night. I hope that castle Derek's going to be in is haunted. We'll find out at 10:30 p.m. on that Friday night. And then the Rockingham 500 itself. It'll be good to be back on the ovals. We'll be coming your way live here on Speed Channel with pre-race coverage at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The race itself at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And we expect to have an additional car in that race dressed up in the Union Jack for a British driver. So expect a lot of Austin Powers jokes. I'm Bob Varsha for Calvin Fish, Derek Daly, Scott Pruitt, and Tommy Kendall. Thanks for being with us for the inaugural Shell Grand Prix of Denver, round 14 of the Kart FedEx Championship Series for 2002. A big day for everyone involved. Bitter disappointment for many drivers, including Dario Franchitti. I hope he and teammate Paul Tracy get together soon to talk it through. See you in 2 weeks in England. Until then, so long, everyone.